Good evening and welcome to KiniNews. Here are today's top stories. A DAP lawmaker has urged Anwar Ibrahim to step down as the opposition leader and to take a back seat following Pakatan Harapan's defeat and PKR's wipeout in the recently concluded Malacca state election.
A DAP lawmaker has called on Anwar Ibrahim to step down as the opposition leader. This came following Pakatan Harapan's defeat in the recent concluded Malacca state election. In a post on Facebook, Bilut assemblyperson Lee Chin Chen said the opposition coalition should explore new directions and find a new consensus as soon as possible. He said if there is no hope for Harapan to reset itself, the DAP leadership must consider quitting the coalition. Lee hoped that Anwar would relinquish the leadership baton and take a back seat to assist the new generation of successors to reach new heights. He said Harapan has been obsessed with the numbers game for over a year. And if the coalition failed to put a stop to it and review their direction, it would only lead to a repeat of the defeat in the Malacca polls. He added that the Malacca state election was a blow to Harapan, which only won 5 out of 28 state seats contested. Lee also commented on Harapan's decision to work with the defectors in the polls. He said the coalition not only lost 6 seats, but it was criticized as both PKR and Amanah recruited the defectors. According to him, they were criticized as Harapan not only pledged to push for an anti-hopping law, but also signed a memorandum of understanding with Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob. He said this has disillusioned Chinese voters who initially supported Harapan but were now too disappointed to vote, particularly in mixed seats.
Since the Malacca state election concluded, many people have singled out Anwar Ibrahim as the person to blame for Harapan's loss. However, several lawmakers have come out to defend the opposition leader.
Sepang MP Hanipa Maidin said anyone has the right to criticize the Harapan leaders, including PKR President Anwar Ibrahim, for the defeat suffered by the coalition in Malacca. However, he did not agree that Anwar should be blamed and asked to step down from leading Harapan at least for now. Hanipa said this as he had received many messages asking him to agree to blame Anwar and PKR in particular for Harapan's defeat. He said it would be fair to say that Anwar had a share in the defeat of Harapan and all PKR candidates in Malacca, but it must be remembered that all Harapan decisions were not made by Anwar alone. According to him, Harapan is always guided by collective decisions, so blaming only one individual would be unfair. He added that he was not offended if he was labelled as being too pro-Anwar, but insisted that he had always tried to educate himself to try to be fair to anyone. Hanipa said he felt that Harapan still needed Anwar's services along with the existing coalition leadership.
So with all this talk, the question is, what was the cause of Harapan's poor showing in Malacca? Well, according to Amanah President Muhammad Sabu, one of the big reasons was the lack of Bersatu votes that the coalition garnered during the 2018 general election.
Among the causes for Pakatan Harapan's defeat in the Malacca state election was the loss of Bersatu votes the coalition got during the 2018 general election. This is according to Amanah President Muhammad Sabu. In a post on Facebook, he said, Perikatan Nasional, which comprises Bersatu, PAS and Gerakan, garnered 77,731 votes in the Malacca polls. He estimated that 44,570 of the votes were from PAS, based on an estimation from the 2018 election. This meant that Bersatu got around 33,161 of PN's votes. According to Mat Sabu, if you add that to Harapan's votes, that would give you around 147,457 votes, compared to BN, which only got 122,741 votes. He said, therefore, it is clear that Harapan's defeat was not due to BN, who only maintained their votes, but due to the betrayal by Bersatu President Muhyiddin Yassin and his group. Muhammad added that Harapan will conduct a post-mortem to identify the other causes of its setback in the elections. BN won a landslide in last Saturday's Malacca State Assembly election, capturing a total of 21 seats. UMNO won 18 seats, MCA 2 and MIC 1, giving the coalition a 2/3 majority in the 28-member State Legislative Assembly. Harapan only retained 5 of the 15 seats it previously won. DAP retained 4 out of its 8 seats. PKR lost all 3, while Amanah won 1 seat.
Pakatan Harapan said the decision by the Attorney General's chambers to withdraw their appeal of UMNO's Putrajaya MP Tengku Adnan Tengku Mansor's corruption case is both wrong and disappointing.
Pakatan Harapan has expressed shock and disappointment over the Attorney General's chamber's decision to drop UMNO's Putrajaya MP Tengku Adnan Tengku Mansor corruption case. In a statement today, Harapan's Presidential Council said the decision to withdraw the appeal gave way to a bad perception and eroded public confidence towards the AGC. They added that it tainted the credibility of the AGC and the freedom to conduct its duty professionally. The coalition said while they understood the AGC has the power to decide whether to withdraw an appeal or not, the case involves charges of corruption against an MP and former federal minister, and the people wanted the appeal to be heard and judged until all legal avenues are exhausted. The Presidential Council will also look into possibilities that the AGC's action has gone against the Memorandum of Understanding between Harapan and the government. The Council added that it will scrutinize acts like this by the AGC and consider the steps to be taken next, and said the Attorney General should resign if he fails to justify his decision. 4 months ago, the Court of Appeal overturned a High Court decision to convict Tengku Adnan in his 2 million ringgit graft case. Attorney General Idrus Harun filed an appeal in the federal court in July over the decision but withdrew it last week.
Now we have a short message from our sponsor. When we're back, find out why Anwar Ibrahim brought up Najib Razak's 100 million ringgit housing request in Parliament. See you after the break.
Shellfish, red meat, and beer. If you love indulging in these foods, you may end up with high uric acid level in your blood. These foods consist high level of purine, a substance that will eventually break down into uric acid and be excreted through our urine. It is recommended that the amount of dietary purines should be kept between 600 to 1000 milligrams per day. Having too much uric acid in your blood can cause attacks of gout. It can also cause kidney stones and blockage in the kidney. The crystallization of the excessive uric acid in your blood can be eased by reducing purine-rich food to only 100 to 150 milligrams daily, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and consuming urinary alkalinizer like Ural. It consists of sodium bicarbonate, citric acid, and sodium citrate that increases the urinary pH and solubility of uric acid to prevent crystallization. Best of all, it's lemon-flavored and sugar-free. Ural, effective urinary alkalinizer. Neutralize your uric acid problem now.
Welcome back. Opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim has called on the cabinet to explain why it had so easily agreed in principle to former Prime Minister Najib Abdul Razak's request for a property valued at 100 million ringgit.
Opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim has questioned the government over their decision to approve former Prime Minister Najib Abdul Razak's request for a property valued at 100 million ringgit. He called on the government to explain their approval of the request while debating the allocations for the Prime Minister's department under Budget 2022 in the Dewan Rakyat today.
Bagaimana mungkin satu kerajaan dan jemaah menteri dalam keadaan kemelut ekonomi yang parah sekarang boleh dengan mudah meluluskan jumlah wang begitu besar kepada seorang mantan Perdana Menteri?
Last week, it was revealed that Najib had requested from the government for a piece of land and house in an affluent neighbourhood in Kuala Lumpur, purportedly worth 100 million ringgit. It was later confirmed that the cabinet had agreed to Najib's request in principle. At that point, Najib had announced he had withdrawn his application and said that he had rejected the offer for the sake of the people. He also called on the government to relook at the entitlement benefits for current and future former prime ministers and even revoke the perks if needed, except for those that have already received it. Former prime ministers are accorded certain privileges by the government, including a right to residence.
An online post by veteran journalist Abdul Kadir Jassin on his disappointment in the Malacca state election result has drawn condemnation and also some snark from several UMNO leaders.
Former Prime Minister Najib Abdul Razak has responded to veteran journalist Abdul Kadir Jassin over his post on the Malacca state election result. In a post on Facebook, Najib questioned why Kadir had insulted the voters and asked if he was angry. He also shared a response by UMNO Supreme Council leader Pot Zakashi on Kadir's post focusing on a part about the people of Malacca endorsing kleptocrats and the court cluster. Yesterday, Kadir had vented on his frustration over the Malacca state election result and said that hopefully, the folly of the Malaccans in endorsing the kleptocrats and members of court cluster will not become a nationwide pandemic. He added that maybe the Malaccans had been condemned centuries ago to live in darkness and subjugation forever. Apart from Najib, Kadir's remark also grew the condemnation of Puat. Puat said that Malaccans are tired and bored with empty and unrealized promises, lying government, selective prosecution, weak majority and instability. And this was the reason that they gave a 2/3 majority to BN. He questioned if the people of Malacca or Kadir Jassin, who still cites Najib every day, was the fool. Puat added that Malaccans will live in darkness if they are still under Harapan. Aside from his attacks on BN, Kadir in his post also mentioned Harapan's poor performance in the election, saying a new leadership is needed for the coalition. Kadir said the dismal showing by Harapan reinforces the widely held view that its aging leadership can no longer fire the imagination of the voters.
Now, while we're on the topic of UMNO leaders and the Malacca state elections, Malacca AMNO chief Abdul Rauf Yusof has denied rumours of a rift within the party over the chief minister's post.
Malacca AMNO chief Abdul Rauf Yusof has dismissed rumours about opposition from within the party to the appointment of Sulaiman Muhammad Ali as the chief minister. He said all UMNO division chiefs in Malacca fully supported the appointment as stated previously. In a press conference yesterday night, he said there were no problems and they had secured a stable government. Rauf added that the appointment reflected the trust of the people in Malacca and that with the cooperation of all UMNO division chiefs, they would prepare for the 15th general election. The focus now is on the new government administration. Sulaiman began his official duties as the 13th Chief Minister of Malacca this morning. He was sworn in as a new Chief Minister yesterday after BN won 21 of the 28 seats contested in the state election. The Lendu State Assemblyman said that he had sworn in earlier than scheduled because he had urgent matters to attend to, including the Conference of Rulers meeting.
Padang Rengas MP Nazri Abdul Aziz said an anti-hopping law could have prevented the Malacca state elections and has now called on the government to speed up the tabling of the bill.
Padang Rengas MP Nazri Abdul Aziz has called on the government to establish a parliamentary select committee to hasten the enactment of an anti-party hopping law. He said it has been a year since he spoke up on the anti-hopping law and there has been no progress by the government or parliament on the issue. Nazri said the people are bored of defectors and hate politicians like these who put their self-interest first instead of the people's interests.
Pertama sekali kepada Tuan Speaker sebagai ketua kita dalam parlimen ini untuk dengan segera mengadakan select committee dan dipanggil semua mana-mana parti menghantar wakil untuk menjadi sebagai ahli select committee ini dengan dipengusikan oleh speaker sendiri supaya kita dapat selesaikan masalah ini secepat mungkin.
Nazri also called on the minister in charge of Parliament and Law to take the initiative and bring the matter to the cabinet. He said the government should take the matter seriously and it had to be done soon as the general elections could be held next year or 2 years from now.
Well, that's a wrap for KiniNews this evening. For more stories, go to KiniTV.com. Don't forget to follow us on our social media on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook to get the latest news headlines there as well. If you'd like to support the independent media, please do consider a subscription to MalaysiaKini.com. When you're heading out, don't forget your mask, and when you can, please do try to stay home. I'm Daniel Anthony. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay safe, Malaysia.